Hi everyone, welcome to the Study in Holland pre-departure briefing. The aim of this presentation is to give final practical information to international students who are coming to study in the Netherlands this September. My name is Sabine and I'm a representative of Study in Holland, and together with my colleague Karianne and Study in Holland ambassador Anna, we will give a short presentation about what you need to know before arriving in the Netherlands. We have divided this presentation into 4 parts. We start with before departure, then after arrival, life in the Netherlands, and we end with some tips and tricks. As this presentation is quite short, we cannot go too much into detail, but we can imagine that you might have questions afterwards. So in that case, please visit our Facebook or Instagram page and ask your question there, and then we will respond to you on our social media. Okay, before departure, we start with probably the most important, but perhaps also the most difficult thing to arrange before arriving in the Netherlands: housing. Please make sure you have housing before you come to the Netherlands. And we know it's not easy at all finding a good place, as there is a shortage of student accommodations. But the chance that you'll find something once you have already arrived in the Netherlands is not very big. And I also would like to inform you here about the housing hotline. This housing hotline provides a place for international students to ask questions regarding housing. So if you have a complaint about your house, about your accommodation, first speak to your housing provider, obviously. And then if you need help, ask the housing officer at your institution. But if that's not enough, you can also contact the housing hotline. And they will assist you and use the information anonymously to improve the overall housing situation of international students. What else do you need to arrange before coming to the Netherlands? You need to think about legalizing some important documents. This is to verify that the document has been issued by the relevant authority and that the signature on the document is correct. For your visa, permit, or registration with the council, you may need one or more legalized documents, for example, your birth certificate. What other paperwork do you need to prepare? Here you can see a whole checklist, but this is depending per nationality and country where you are coming from. EU nationals, for example, don't need a visa to stay in the Netherlands, so check what kind of paperwork you need to prepare in your situation. On our Study in Holland website, you can find more detailed information about this. But generally speaking, you need to think about a valid passport, obviously, your admission letter and tuition fee receipts, proof of medical insurance, your housing contract, etc. And now let's switch to the weather in the Netherlands. Well, I hope you didn't choose the Netherlands as study destination because of the great weather, because I can be honest about that, it can get really cold and wet here. But the good news is that we have 4 seasons, so we have a bit of everything. In September, when you will be arriving in the Netherlands, it's still summer. This means the weather varies between 12 to 30 degrees, so pack accordingly. But autumn also starts in September, and that means that the weather will get colder and wetter. And then in December, the winter will start, and then it can get really cold during the winter. So please make sure to have enough warm clothes with you, or that you buy them once you are in the Netherlands. Okay, now you're ready to go to the Netherlands. What to do after arrival? A very important thing is to register with the municipality to get your citizen server number. If you are staying in the Netherlands for more than 4 months, you will need to go to the municipality and register as a resident. This will enable to get your citizen server number, called BSN number in Dutch. And if you don't have a place to live yet, you cannot register. So yeah, once again, it's really important to have arranged your housing before arriving in the Netherlands, also for this. You need this number actually to open a bank account, take out health insurance, or get a job or internship position in the Netherlands, for example. And actually, many universities and universities of applied sciences facilitate this registration at special intake days for international students. So ask your international office for more information and make sure to not miss out these special opportunities for international students. So as I just mentioned, you need to have this citizen service number to be able to open a bank account. And if you are staying in the Netherlands for a long period, it can be very useful to open such a bank account because many grocery stores, for example, do not accept credit cards, and some stores have even stopped accepting cash money. And also, if you are planning to work or doing an internship in the Netherlands, you must have a bank account. Most people use a Maestro debit card called Pinpas in Dutch. Now my colleague Karianne will tell you more about how transportation in the Netherlands works.
Thank you, Sabine. Now let's continue with the transportation. How does the transportation in the Netherlands work? Public transport is very good and it will take you almost anywhere you want to go. Plan your trip and don't forget your card to check in. You can buy an OV card or OV card at the stations and charge it with enough money for your trip. An OV chip card is the ticket for public transport in the Netherlands. If you carry one with you, you will no longer need to think about strip tickets or metro tickets and train tickets. You can travel on trains, trams, buses, and metros with this single OV card. You can find information online on the use of the OV chip card. Pro tip, find a bike. Bikes are everywhere. The bicycle is the cheapest and easiest way to get around, especially if you live in a city. There are special cycling lanes on almost every road, and other road users are used to cyclists. Most Dutch people, regardless of their profession or status, have a bicycle. Buy a second-hand bike rather than a new one to save money. But also be sure to buy at least one strong lock. Another important thing to take care of is arrange your health insurance. International students who study in the Netherlands are legally required to have health insurance. There are different rules that apply to different situations, so check what rules apply for you. You can arrange your health insurance from your home country, but make sure you have enough coverage. Also check, for example, if repatriation is included, which means returning to your home country. If you happen to become seriously ill, you might prefer to get medical care close to home. It would be wise to have an insurance policy covering the cost of transferring back to your home country in these situations. You can also inform at the international office of your host institution which kind of insurance applies for you. Most likely, this will be a student insurance. In addition, you need a liability insurance. If you cause an accident and someone is injured or you damage someone's property, you are responsible for paying all the costs of the accident. You might, for example, break something in your rented room. Or, on a more serious note, you might cause a road accident. More detailed information about this can be found on the Study in Holland website at the Plan Your Stay page. You also need to register with a General Practitioner directly after arrival. How can you do this? Google the word huisarts and add your city. You can then choose the doctor's office that suits you best. Have you made a choice? Phone the office and ask if you can register with this doctor. If you have not registered with a GP and you then become ill, you may have difficulty finding a nearby doctor who is taking patients, as their practice may already be full. If you are not feeling well or have complaints, you must first go and see your general practitioner. The GP decides whether to send you to see a specialist and, if necessary, send you to a hospital. If you need medicine, you will receive a prescription from the GP. With that prescription, you can collect the medicine at a local pharmacy. Have you had an accident or someone needs help immediately? Then call the number 112 as quickly as possible. It's okay to feel down at first because you are getting used to new settings and a new environment. If you experience any difficulties, reach out. What can you do? You can consult a GP about your mental health. You can check what student services your host institution offers. You can, for example, talk with staff, get free online support, chat anonymously with fellow students if you need a listening ear. You don't have to do it on your own, so don't hesitate to reach out. More information on this can also be found on our healthcare page. And now I will give the floor to you, Anna. So take it away.
Thank you so much, Karianne. Hi, everybody. My name is Anna, and I'm an ambassador. And in the following slides, I'm going to tell you more about what you can expect from the life in the Netherlands. So let's start with the Dutch teaching style. There are many ways of teaching in the world, and the Dutch teaching style can be described as interactive and student-centered. Students are usually provided with a lot of attention, freedom, so they can develop their own opinions and creativity and apply it during their work in the future. So there are some things that are required from the student. You should respect each individual's opinion. The interaction in class is highly appreciated, so you should you are expected to think about the knowledge that is presented to you as something that you can challenge. So it's okay to talk to your lecturer or to fellow colleagues and be critical about what they are saying. A lot of all the study programs are dedicated to writing papers, working in groups on different projects. You're usually asked to analyze some specific problems and give answers, solutions, and of course acquiring a lot of practical work experience. So if you are thinking you might be the only one international student in the class, this is not true. Because the Dutch classrooms are very international. For example, in my university, we had 22 different nationalities in our group, and I felt good. Now let's talk about the Dutch grading system. Again, there are many different grading systems in the world, and the Dutch universities both, well, in the Netherlands, the 10 system grading is used both in the secondary and higher education, when the 10 is the highest grade and 6 is usually the minimum pass grade, but in some universities it can be 5.5. Usually the grades 1 to 3 are rarely given, and also 9s and 10s are rarely given. So if you get something like 7 or 8, you're perfectly fine. You didn't do horrible. It is just how it works. So if you get 7, be happy about this. Now let's talk about working, because a lot of students want to work alongside the studies. And of course, there are some things that you should consider. It depends on where you come from. If you come from the European Union or European Economic Area or Switzerland, you are free to work without any restrictions. But if you come from another country, then you need a work permit, which gives you around maximum 16 hours per week. In summer months, during July and August, you can work full-time. It's fine. Very important thing is that your employer has to apply for your work permit, and you should be really careful about this, because if you do something wrong here, you can get fined. So just make sure that your employer takes care of this. Let's talk about learning Dutch. Even though almost everybody in the Netherlands speaks English, it is really helpful to learn some Dutch. It helps you, of course, to get the Dutch students better, to get the better view of the country and the culture. And of course, for internship or future work, it is really helpful to learn some Dutch. There are different ways of how you can learn Dutch. Of course, there are beginner courses, intermediate or advanced courses, and you can Google online for a free course, or you can ask around, or you can find something in your area, but there's always something around with the learning Dutch. So you don't have to be worried about this. Let's talk about student life. Even though some universities have their buildings spread around the town, or only few universities have campuses, actually, the student life in the Netherlands is real. And of course, there are a lot of network of associations that bring students together. For example, these associations can be run by students, or they can be internationally oriented. And 2 of the biggest international students associations are ISEC and Erasmus Student Network. Also, many cities have separate associations which are not connected to any institutions. There are usually some pub gatherings or restaurant gatherings or just other meeting spaces where you can just go ahead and get around, hang out with other people. And I would say that in the Netherlands, the higher education community seeks to be part of the society, and it is not isolated from it. So, important, how to make friends. Of course, the documents and housing is important, but making friends is very good for your mental health. So, where can you find friends? First of all, consider joining the student associations or student representative councils. get engaged in some activities around the cities. For example, join some cook dinners, international dinners, or go out in some clubs, or just join a library, or you can actually meet a lot of new friends in student libraries. It happened with me a lot. That you can just go study, prepare for your exams, and yeah, you just get connected because the exams connect everybody. And now let me share one tip that I found really useful for myself. I felt really down and really weird when I first came here, and what I found really important is I just let myself be down for some time. It's okay, it's totally fine, because you're getting used to a new culture, a new teaching style, everybody is different, and your friends and family are so far away. So just know that it's okay to feel a bit different, to feel a bit weird, and maybe freak out a little bit. But if it gets too much, of course, consult some medical people, get some help. But just know that it's fine. You're not the only one who is going through this. Now, thank you for attention. If you need more, thank you for attention. If you need more detailed information, of course, go to the website www.studyinholland.nl. If you have other questions, please visit our social media channels, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't hesitate to ask us questions, and we will always respond you. And good luck and safe travels.